Hey everyone, and welcome back to Life Unpotted Community Series. Thanks for joining us today for another episode. We're excited to work through your questions. This series is really fun for us because we show up here, we read the question, and we go through it in real time. And all we're really doing is just using our perspective and our insight that we've learned from this journey of self-discovery, self-growth, spirituality, personal growth, healing, whatever you want to call it, right? There are so many different words to describe what I think really means just connecting with ourselves, understanding who we are, peeling back all the things we thought we were, questioning our conditioning, questioning the things that we were told growing up from society, from our parents, from ourselves ultimately. And as always, we are just sharing our experiences, right? Daisy and I have gone through a lot of change the past few years, especially the past few months, and that's provided us with the vehicle to be able to bring this conversation to you guys because we have done the work on our own. We are still doing the work. Trust me, I think this is a lifelong journey. So as we're going along this journey, as we're getting and continuing to get more insights, we want to just keep sharing that with you guys. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to connect with you through the series, through the questions you're sending in. And if you have not done so already, or if you have sent in a question and you want to send another one, we actually just got a listener write in her second question, and we love that. There's so much to talk about. So if you feel like you have another question you want to send in, or you haven't sent one in yet, do that. Use this as an opportunity to think through something that you've been wanting to think through. You can email us at info@livelifeumpotted.com, shoot us a DM, and we look forward to hearing from you. So let's get into today's episode. Today we have a question from a listener who asks, how do you unlearn the belief that money is required to be happy, fulfilled, and to live purposely? I think this is a really great question and something that Daisy and I have definitely worked through, I think, the past few years with major shifts and leaving the corporate world, making the decision to leave a steady paycheck in Manhattan and say, hey, for me, working at a law firm, being a lawyer, making a large salary, honestly, and looking at that and saying, this feels empty. This feels like this doesn't mean much. This feels like it's just a number. And yes, of course, it is a number that gave me the means to do certain things. It is a number that gave me the ability to accumulate my savings and money. We can't dismiss it. We can't act like money isn't the currency of our reality. It is. And in another episode, we've talked about, I think this was a couple months back, how to change your relationship with money. And that was all about, we had a guest on, Kyle Summersall, and that was all about talking about how can we release the energy blocks? How can we recognize that we're capable of making money? But I think this question is not so much about how can we change our relationship with money in the sense of how can we have a healthier relationship with money, but maybe more so letting go of the ways we use money and to avoid the way that we attach to how much money we're making as a way to value ourselves, to value our self-worth. Oh, I have this salary, so this means something about me. If I drive this car, then, I'm better. I'm better off. I'm happier. People view me in a certain way. And it's really interesting as we dive deep and we can explore this question. We really just realize when we spend our life chasing money, we really end up losing sight of who we really are. So I think this is a great question. I'm excited to dive deep into it, and I'll kick it to Daisy to hear your general thoughts on this.
What a topic. Money. I think there's a lot of baggage that everyone has individually with money. And I think finding true happiness with money, it has been blown out of proportion. There is obvious benefits of having quote unquote security for having a life that isn't going to be in fight or flight. There's a level of importance there, right? That is a necessity. But I feel like our culture has blown this out of proportion into thinking our sole purpose here is to make money. I mean, I think this really goes back to like our capitalistic society. I think an interesting, influential person on our culture was Milton Friedman. I believe he won a Nobel Prize or some sort of high-level prize back in the 80s for his philosophy or his theory on how to make money. And it's at the bottom line, large corporations, their goal is to make as much money back for the shareholders as possible, no matter what. And I feel like that's what we see modern day. It's like exploitation all around for the purpose of giving the shareholders the maximum amount of money possible, whether that means not paying people livable wages or that means having unsafe working conditions. I think this is an influential theory or an influential thing in our common day society. And I don't know too much about it, but I think that mindset is very much still permeating our mindset today around money, around consumerism, around the need to make a lot of money in order to be happy. It's because think of the conditions that a mindset like that might create for someone who is an everyday person who is working. It's where you don't have enough money to survive. You don't have enough money to do this, to go on that fun vacation. And if we're being marketed everything that we need is from getting something outside of ourselves. And think of the environment that we live in. Like that's the environment. We grew up watching advertisements as a kid influencing us that we're not cool if we don't drink alcohol, or, you know, we can only be satisfied if we go and get a Coca-Cola. There's so much subliminal messaging around us and our society. And we grew up going to school, which we're very in tune with society and cultural programming because that's what we're being taught. And there's even these like large corporations such as like Coca-Cola and, you know, all of the different brands, think of them, fast food, that go into schools and they serve kids these foods. My point in saying all of this is there's no separation between corporate exploitation for its workers, for its consumers. It's all at the bottom line. How do we make the most money? Regardless of the impact we have on our society also. I think that's the next layer, is that we've just been brought up in this world where we've been told that to be happy, we have to make a lot of money to achieve these things we're being marketed, to be able to buy these things, participate in these things that are being marketed toward us. And that's a lot. That's why we believe this. That's why we think we have to. I mean, there's a million other things, but I think at its core, that's why we feel like we have to have more and more and more and more success to be happy. But like I said earlier, it comes down to security, to a point of security. After that, is it just avoidance? If we are saying, oh, we can't find happiness inside of ourselves, we can't find love inside of ourselves, we can't find this inside of our relationships, we can't find this inside of our community, then it gets taken to an extreme to go outward and look for these purposes. And I think purpose is something that we talk about in our society all the time. Everyone wants to have the purpose in this life other than to just make someone else money. So where do we find it? And I think it looks different for all kinds of people. But I think the dangerous place is where it starts to look like buying things, achieving things as a way to feel fulfilled and happy. So, you know, that's my first take at this. I think it's a deep question, and I think it really helps us see like our environment that we're brought up in, and how once we stop consuming all of this information, we're given a little bit of room to take a deep breath and start thinking for ourselves.
I think that's a really important takeaway, like thinking for ourselves. What do you really believe? And it's so interesting to think about like this journey we've been on of kind of like distancing from the outer world in terms of input. And I limited so much of my input over the past few years, muting people on social media, not buying things I would normally buy, just really turning to books, turning to meditation, most importantly, turning to myself. And I think when we grow up in a society that is so focused on making money, if you have this car, it is absolutely astonishing to me now that I have like woken up to look at advertisements and the way that it's like, if you get a Range Rover, you know, you'll be happier. I saw a sign the other day on the billboard on one of the highways in Austin. It was like, I think you could never have too much jewelry. Like, you could never have too much of this. And it's like, no, you can. Like, you really don't need all this. And I think when you silence the outside noise and you really connect with yourself, you can start asking the questions of like, what do I really care about? And for me, this really brings up being a lawyer in Manhattan and like how I got so attached to the ego of I'm going to go to this law firm, I'm going to wear my nice outfit, I'm getting this nice salary, I have this like this whole group at my office, and I got so attached to that. But the truth is, beneath that was extreme insecurity, was extreme this insecurity in myself. And I started to look to the money. I started to look to these material items as a way to make myself feel better. And look, as always, this is not saying let's get rid of all of our material items and move to the forest. That's not the answer here. Like, it's not to say that we shouldn't have material items, and this isn't really what this question is about, but it's our relationship to these things. It's the relationship we have to the outer world of thinking that I will be happier, I am more worthy, I am more deserving in society if I am in a certain socioeconomic status. When you really zoom out and go back, it's really interesting to think about like, when did our society start developing these beliefs? Because when we're living life in this moment, so it's 2023 right now, we almost forget that the world's been around for billions and billions of years. So when a mindset gets adopted into society and a belief system gets adopted, you look back and you realize, oh, it's just some one guy who decided this would be the case, or a bunch of guys, it happens to be a bunch of men actually, which I don't see anything wrong with that particularly, but just in the sense of we're never really questioning, where did these beliefs come from and why do I still believe them? So I think it is really hard because things are expensive in life. Things are continuing to be expensive in life. And it's not to say that we shouldn't strive to be able to make money, but it's like one thing I really learned was like I was making a lot of money doing the shit I did not want to do. Like all the while I wasn't actually happy. I was really miserable deep down. So if we're looking at money as a tool to fulfill us and we're using that to value who we are, we're going to end up so disconnected from ourselves. So I think the more you can really get in touch with yourself, the more you can really get in touch with who you are. And to the listener, it's like asking the question of, who am I beyond everything in my life? Who am I when I close my eyes and I meditate or I really feel? And this goes back to a major theme in the podcast the past few weeks of just feeling. And that state that you experience when you feel that feeling of love and connectivity is not something you can purchase. It is not something you can buy. So I think when you start to realize that the highs that you get in life are not contingent on things you're buying, the most amazing feelings in life don't cost anything. None of our emotions cost anything. It's completely free to be happy. Yes, of course, having certain financial means makes it easier and more comfortable to go down a path where you could maybe have more time to ask these questions. But what you will ultimately discover and what you ultimately will find out is that happiness is not anywhere else but here. It is not anywhere else but yourself. And that treadmill of searching will just leave you more and more disconnected from yourself. So yeah.
I think it's easy to be on that treadmill that you just gave that example of and not even realize it, to think that I'm happy enough, my life is good enough, but I feel a little bored or a little empty. Oh, I'm going to go do a clothing haul from some fashion brand. I'm going to plan this vacation that's going to make things exciting. I think the spark, the excitement that we oftentimes look for in things outside of us, we can cultivate at any moment within us. And it's not something that can be recreated outside of us with the same potency that it can be created within us. Say it's all about looking for a new item. It's all about looking for something, and it's a fleeting feeling, a reward once you get it. But once you find it within yourself, because it's not easy to find it, but once you do find it, you know that it's substantiated. You know that it's stable. You're grounded in it. It's something you really worked for, and it's not just going to go away at the drop of a hat. Like all these other things that are external that you're buying or that you're chasing after outside of yourself. And I think it's interesting. I keep talking about like external happiness, but because that's what money outside of creating security for your life, beyond that, it's just looking for things external from you, which is always going to be a trap. If you're looking for deep meaning, it's never going to be outside of you. It's always going to start deep within you. And yeah, money is a great resource. Money can be something that can help you be more connected to yourself once you go inward, and once you connect with yourself, and once you ground in your energy, and once you feel love abundantly within yourself. Sure, having excess money, you can do wonderful things. But I think the problem arises when people avoid that step of like going inward for themselves and understanding and facing themselves ultimately. And instead of doing that, they find distraction in money. I think going back to the question that was initially posed was that how do we cultivate a life finding happiness just outside of it being money centric? And I really believe that it just starts with you right now in this moment. It's this moment. It's sitting into whatever feelings you're having. And it feels repetitive at times, but you just keep coming back to this place until you're able to break through with these emotions and not let them control you anymore. Because if you don't control them, they control you, whether you realize it or not. So the answer is always going to be looking to you. You have the answer. I think it's funny we have a question segment where we answer questions for people, but the reality is that no one has the answers. You have the answers for yourself, but no one else has the answers for you. And I think that's a hard thing to accept because it's scary. And in order to follow your heart or follow your intuition as to know what next step to take and feel confident in it, you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. And to know yourself means that at times it's uncomfortable. You have to feel uncomfortable things. You have to go places with yourself you've never gone. But there's so much power in you knowing yourself. And we were watching the Tony Robbins documentary. It was like, Tony Robbins, I'm Not Your Guru. Well, if you've listened to like 3 of our latest podcasts, it sounds like all we do is watch documentaries, but I guess that's what Winter is for. But we were watching his documentary, and you know, he's a very, very powerful person. He can really help people initiate change instantaneously. And he had a really powerful quote, something along the lines of, people say it takes years and years and years and years for them to make a change. And in one moment, that change is made. And he's like, it doesn't take 10 years to make a change. It takes 10 years for someone to get to that moment where they're willing to let go and make change. Every person is able to make change in this moment, but things get in the way, oftentimes emotions. So it's just a matter of when are you going to let go and let change happen. It's a lot of it's just letting go, I believe. So I think it's stop trying to control everything. Just let go of any sort of idea of how things should be and just start tapping into feeling yourself, feeling. It always comes back to feeling, because if you can't feel, you're just going to look to someone else to give you the answers. And that's never going to be what changes your life or the world. It always starts with asking yourself those questions and being able to give yourselves an honest answer and to feel intuitively connected to that answer.
For sure. I'm having a lot of thoughts, kind of like I was saying earlier, of when you think about your life and you think about all the things that make you happy, and we have to use the word happy, and we have to be careful when we say that, because I think a lot of people think We're always striving for happiness, but happiness is really, I think, a state that comes of maybe relaxation when we let go, when we're not resisting. Like happiness, it's not, I don't know. But when you think about all the things that like actually make you feel good, you realize that it's not the things that are making you feel good. So if you have the example, I feel really good when I buy my new car, I'm just really excited, or I feel really good when I go on the vacation. And you like look at those instances and you see that literally if you have a relief at all, right? If you even have a sense of relief, and many of us I think do, say you get that thing and all of a sudden you feel happy. You're like, I got it. I'm going on the vacation next Saturday, or next Saturday is a party. I'll be able to have fun then. I'll be able to relax then. And that time comes and it's just a snap of relief and it's gone. Snap of relief of feeling good.
I think this is an interesting example because I've spent a lot of my life this way, to the point of like when I was younger, I'd be so excited for the first day of school that I wouldn't sleep all night. And then I couldn't enjoy the next day at school because I was so exhausted. And this carried into my life in college, where I'd be so excited for an event that I was so anxious that I needed to get everything right and everything together that by the time I got to that event, I was exhausted from feeling so excited and feeling so ready for that moment, because that moment was going to be the only time I could get that relief. And I think this goes with traveling. This goes with looking forward to spending time with friends and family. It's really easy to be so excited and put so much energy into being excited, because once you reach that moment, you're going to be able to relax. But recognizing, wow, it's great I get to do that, but it's not the time that I get to relax, because I can relax right now while I prepare for that. I don't have to exhaust myself from being excited, planning and prepping and not being in this moment just to get to that moment. I can actually enjoy and relax before I get to that moment. So that was a lesson I've learned in my life, because I know that's something that if you struggle with anxiety, that it's so easy to get so caught up in what's next and what's next and what's next. I mean, that's the experience of anxiety. So it's a matter of coming back to this moment and being able to relax now.
Yeah, like that's always what it is. Like, what can I get to next? What can I experience next that would make me feel better? And using the example for me of, I remember so vividly, like just being at my old job, and every day during the week I was miserable. I was miserable from Monday to Friday, literally. And I'd be so anxious of like, I just need the weekend. I need the weekend. I need to feel better. Because I really thought that I couldn't relax in what I was doing, because all of my ideas, all of my preferences. And we see that same thing happen with things we associate that we need money for, like the vacation. Like I recently have realized all the vacations I ever took in my life, like most of them, I was not happy. I never really was happy. I never was able to even really enjoy the things I was doing. And the time I really spent now it's like, I don't really, what's a vacation anymore? A vacation to me is connecting with myself. A vacation to me is like having a retreat or taking a week to just relax and to meditate, like not going outside myself. And it's really important to recognize that, like, when we're always spending our life searching for something outside of us, to the next thing, that we're like, we have a snap of a relief. We have a very short relief in life. And the ability we have to really enjoy in this lifetime becomes very small moments of when we finally get the things we want, or when we finally think we can relax, aka going on vacation, getting the dream job, that person texts you back, whatever it might be. And what it is, it's that mindset of thinking that I need something outside of myself to get the states that I want. The states I want, happiness, okay, let me go look for that, right? Let me go find it. Let me use my wallet to go buy it. And it's just like, that is not the case. And if it was, you'd see all these rich people, billionaires, Elon Musk, whoever, everyone would be happy. We wouldn't be so angry. We wouldn't be so hostile. We wouldn't be causing all these problems. We wouldn't be fighting. If money really gave you happiness, why is the top 1% probably more miserable than anyone else? in a lot of ways with addiction, alcohol addiction, avoiding themselves, corruption, like all these issues. If money made us happier, then why aren't all these people happy? Because it's empty. And at the end of the day, when I take it from someone who's made a lot of money, you sit there and you're left with yourself. You're left with, oh, now that I got this, now that I finally achieved this, now that I finally went to this vacation, I'm going to get home and I'm going to think about the next vacation. And you just end up missing your whole life because you're never actually here. So in asking the question of like, how do we unlearn the belief that money is how we live a purposeful life, is turning it back and looking at yourself. And really, if we have this belief, it means we're extremely disconnected from ourselves. It means that we think purpose is something you have to find. It means that we don't recognize purpose is being. Purpose is now. Purpose is experiencing this moment in whatever comes up. Purpose is not outside of you. Purpose is being sad. Purpose is not knowing. Like, I had this moment this morning where I was walking in the park and I was just looking up and I was like, I spend so much of my life waiting for that time to feel like it's my life. It's time to enjoy my life. And it's just like, now is the time to enjoy because it ain't coming back.
Yeah, that was a timely time to just say that, because I even caught myself thinking, oh, is this episode good? That's not uncommon. I think about this every single time we podcast. And it caught me as you say that of, oh, when can I live my life? When can I live my life? Because in the back of my head, I'm kind of thinking, oh, I can live my life once my podcasts are exceptional and tons of people are listening to them and we're making a livable amount of money from that. And it's interesting to think, oh, that's because I feel like my value will come from that. And that goes in line with what we're talking about right now. My value will come from something outside of me instead of my inherent ability to just enjoy this ability to live on this earth at this point in time, to feel, to enjoy a smile, to enjoy a connection. Like it's, I think we've just gotten so caught up in thinking that the only way to be happy is to achieve fame and success, financial gain, all of these things. I mean, especially coming from Manhattan, especially living there for so many years, that is so ingrained into the culture and the environment that I still keep finding myself programmed like that. Instead, clearly what we're trying to do here is just live life every second to the fullest. And that is not predicated by how much money we have or just how much success we have, because that none of that is in this moment. Everything that is in this moment is just us. And that's why I always talk about going inward, because we can only get so much from things outside of ourselves. It always is within us, because that's where the most beautiful things exist in this world. And that's what allows us to cultivate beautiful moments. So I think just to tie this question up. Oh, Sophie wants to ask me a question.
So like in this moment, right, you're becoming aware of that tendency to want something outside of you. So going back to the original question from the listener, like, how do we unlearn thinking we need money to make us happy? It's the same way we unlearn everything, right? It's becoming aware. What can you explain, like, what your experience is of when the thought arises, or that I'm noticing recently, it's like my body like wants something else. Like my body literally is like, I need something else now. So what's the experience for you to become aware of that and then say, oh, I don't have to follow that? Because I think this is something that is really hard for people to understand.
Well, I think first off, I think we're conditioned to not want to have to go through anything difficult. I don't know if it's like our modern day life that makes everything livable, that makes everything that we do extremely easy. Everything that our basic needs can be so easily met without us doing anything strenuous or having to work for anything really. Yeah, but I think the process of examining something that comes up and instantaneously wanting to reach for something else, like for me, something of that matter is I'll have feelings of anger overflow into my body. And what I want to do is instantly control everything around me. If our really crappy light that falls every time we record, if that falls, I feel myself want to get angry because my body has all of this anger pulsating in it. And something that I've found myself doing recently is not resisting that and just feeling it. And that doesn't mean making everyone else know that I'm feeling it by like radiating it. It means just sitting in it. And I know that's a really vague term to say, to sit in an uncomfortable feeling, but I think the best way to describe it is say it's pouring rain outside. There's nothing in sight, no cover in sight, no shelter in sight. You have no umbrella and you have miles to go. It's just saying, well, this is how it is. I'm just going to walk. I'm not going to try to run somewhere. I'm not going to try to escape this. I'm just going to feel the rain hit every section of my body. I'm going to feel the rain drench me in the rain itself. And I'm going to let it absorb me. And I'm going to become the rain. And I think that's kind of this experience. I think it's kind of like stretching too. If you haven't stretched in a long time and you bend down to stretch your legs, it's going to be a really unpleasant feeling. But if you hold that for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you're going to feel everything loosen a little bit because you're going into the tight muscles in your body. And I think that is the same thing as going into the emotion that quote unquote is negative that we're experiencing, is going into it. And I think that this can only be felt. It cannot be explained verbally. I guess by metaphors is the best example. It's the closest thing to it, but I think stretching is a great adjacent example of you're feeling into an emotion and you're feeling yourself work into it and you're becoming it. And before you know it, it's gone. And it feels good. It feels cathartic. It's like wringing out a wet dish rag of like you're letting it all out. You're not resisting it anymore. You're feeling it. Your body's begging you to feel this.
To someone listening who's like, well, what does it have to do with my relationship to money? How would you explain that? Of how does this like ability of us becoming aware of what we're experiencing tie into why we look so much to money to feel like we are complete and to be happy?
Well, we're not going to look to money for the wrong reasons anymore. Money is never the issue. Money has never been the issue. Money will never be the issue. It's our intentions of looking at the money and how we're going to use it. And if we are not facing ourselves in the way that I just described, say I'm feeling super angry that the light just fell and I happen to have a spare $25 in my pocket and I decide, you know what, fuck this. And I'm just going to go order everything off the dessert menu because I don't want to feel this. So I'm just going to go numb myself instead by eating sugar.
I've definitely been there before.
Yeah.
I don't feel good. I need to buy dessert.
Yeah, right. So I think that is where it ties in. That $25 can go to something a lot better if you are able to face those emotions, and you're also going to enjoy whatever you spend those $25 on tenfold if you're feeling good yourself. If you're looking for an escape through purchasing something or getting an experience through buying something or eating something that you've bought, it's not going to feel good because your intention is not good. Your intention is to escape. Like if you're eating a cookie because you feel upset and depressed and angry versus you're having a night with your friends and you're just connecting and having so much fun and you're sharing cookies, the way you eat a cookie is going to feel entirely different.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like it's not about not doing the things, but it's about what is our intention while we do it. And that makes me think about, so after I left my job and being in this period now of living on savings, I've had so many times of feeling so anxious or angry or just upset. My immediate thought is, I'm living on savings. I need money coming. I need more money coming in. And what I really learned, like throughout the journey of just sitting with that feeling as it comes up, sitting with the discomfort of feeling so anxious because I don't have a steady income. I don't have money coming in the way it used to be. What I really learned was beneath that, it's not that I need the money coming in because I know that's going to happen. But what that really shows is my extreme fear of trusting. It just shows how scared I am that maybe I can't make money on my own, or that I'm going to have to go back and be a lawyer or be at this law firm. So we see it coming up with like how anxious we get about not having the money, how anxious we get about what if, I need this, I need the money now. And it's like, we are in such scarcity, like take a step back. You're in such scarcity mindset right now. You don't trust yourself. You think you need the money to make yourself safe and comfortable because you don't trust that you're going to be able to figure it out. You don't trust that you're going to be able to handle it. You don't trust that if your savings goes down 80%, that things might, in the blink of an eye, just work out. What that really shows is our inability to surrender. And I think a key point of this episode is highlighting the way we use money to control that. We use money to control and have the sense of security and the sense of comfort. And it almost becomes, look, again, we're always talking beyond our basic needs, right? We have food, we have a shelter, we have water, we have food, we have all that. Like, we're not talking about that. But what we're talking about is for people who have that and they still deal with this feeling of, I need more. I need more money coming in. Because for me, right now at this point, I have everything I need to live. So is there really an issue? No, this is a fear of the future. This is a fear of what's going to happen when. So how do I solve that fear? Well, I need more money coming in right now. No. How do I solve that fear? Recognizing it's a fear. Recognizing that I'm scared of the fact that I might not have money. Diving deep into that. What am I so scared of? Why can't I trust myself? So when we don't take like our money related thoughts at face value, and we don't assume that because I'm in the situation where, yes, you might need to pay your rent check, but you don't have to pay it anxiously. You don't have to pay it in scarcity mindset. And the more we shift that, it's when money starts coming in, because we realize that the way we're viewing energy, we view it not as a fix, but we view it as an energy exchange. We view it as a sense of abundance that's coming into us as we are abundant. So I just think that like our entire relationship shifts when we realize that a lot of the time we look to money just to feel better and to grab something and to feel safe. But all that is doing is keeping you from facing yourself. And facing yourself is what actually sets you free. So yeah, I think there's a lot to say here. It's an interesting question for sure.
Well, it goes deep.
It goes deep. And
it's not about money. It's about the relationship you have to money. It's always what it is.
And I think it's so interesting, like listening to this episode, like sometimes we want like, oh, so what's the answer here? How do I unlearn it? It's like, well, you unlearn it by realizing that these beliefs are not you. The beliefs you have about money are ingrained or conditioned, and you unlearn it by sitting in the discomfort that comes when you don't go to grab it, when you don't go buy to go buy that thing, or you've left your job and you sit in the extreme uncertainty of saying, I'm living on savings right now, but I actually am going to let go and trust this process. And I also think our perspective of like coming at this question, of course, it's our podcast is about your mind. Our podcast is about shifting your reality. So it's not about anything you're really doing outside of you. We're not going to give you a framework of things you're going to go do to decondition your belief about money. You have to go in. Like, you have to just go in. And that's something that society doesn't teach us. So, yeah.
I think this was a very interesting conversation. I think we can always unpack our relationship to money because it's our relationship to ourselves inherently. It's our relationship to how do we take care of ourselves? Are we avoidant or are we going after the issue at hand? And I just think that money oftentimes is a supplier of our distractions and our avoidance tactics. So it's deep. And I think Sophie said it very clearly and very well of how do I question my relationship to money? It's questioning your relationship to every conditioning you've ever been told that you are. And I'm currently going through this right now, and I'm not going to open it up because I'm just thinking about it. But I'm just saying, like, I felt myself wanting to end the episode early because I felt myself not wanting to sit with this feeling as Sophie was talking. And I think that's exactly what you have to do. You have to sit with the uncomfortability of the conditionings with yourself in order to change those conditionings, especially around money. So I think that's a great thing to leave you all with. I think that money, it's a tough one, and I think it can be a controversial one, but I think ultimately the power is in your hands, because the power is entirely in your hands when you start just looking to yourself, because no one's in control of you but you. And you have to take accountability for yourself in order for that to be true.
And to close out the episode, to leave the listener and the listeners with maybe some sort of action item they can do that kind of summarizes what we talked about, is make a list of all the things in your life that you enjoy, all the things in your life where you feel full of love and contentment and relaxation. And look at that list and make a list of all the things that you can do without money and the list of things that require money. And what I saw, the list of all the things I enjoyed, time with friends, time with family, time with myself, going for a walk, all these things are free. So looking at that list is going to help you better understand the fact that your happiness doesn't come from these things that you associated with normally.
Well, time is the new currency. Would you rather have a ton of money or a ton of time and enough money to survive? I think that's a question we ask ourselves all the time, because you are able to do all these things when you have that more time. So I think that is a big one of how can I have more time for myself? And that's one way to look at it. Sometimes that's not possible. It's like, how can I still carve out more time for myself? Because it's always possible. You can always show up for yourself. Even if you're super busy, you can take 1 minute and step away from everything, and you can look at yourself in that 1 minute and do that 1 minute every single day at the same time. You know, there's different ways to do it, and it's possible for everyone.
Yeah, and I think another interesting way to think about this is kind of like, I think we sometimes think we need more money than we actually do. Like looking back at when I was working at the law firm and making all this money, like when I made that shift to leave the career and giving up this huge salary, I think I really had to unlearn the fact that I didn't need all the things I once thought I did, or that I had excessive stuff. Like we've talked about this just between Daisy and I in the past. Like we were watching that documentary. Hello, it's a documentary. Minimalists, I think it's called, about how to live minimally. And it was a really, really fascinating documentary because I think it was on Netflix. Because it was talking all about like how when you like get rid of all the clutter in your home and all these unnecessary things, like you actually end up feeling a lot more at ease in your mind and a lot more relaxed. And I think when we're only surrounded by certain people, so if you're in an environment at a job where everyone around you is making a lot of money, or people are striving to get promoted and make a lot of money, you think that's the only way to live. And what I saw from leaving my job, leaving my career and moving to out of Manhattan into Austin, is that there's so many other ways to live. Like we have to let go of that myopic view and understand that what's around you is not always indicative and representative of all the other routes you can take in life. So the way your life looks like right now, or the things that you thought you needed in life, you're going to have a level of attachment to those things because you've spent so much of your life believing you needed those things and following the group, following the herd, group think, trying to be like everyone else. And there's a lot of pain that comes up when we start unlearning that, oh, I actually, if I want to go camp in my van and get rid of everything I own, that's okay. But with that comes the pain of, you know, facing the fact that you tried to fit in your whole life and you try to do what everyone else is doing your whole life. And I think it's really interesting how so much of money is intertwined with whether it's even like, I'm going to go out to this dinner I need money to go out to this dinner so I can see these friends because I'm too scared to tell these friends that I don't want to spend money. Like, buying things and doing all this stuff is so often linked with these dynamics we form with other people and the fear of really expressing what we really want and accepting what we really want. So, looking back to me, like a year ago on the 23rd floor in Midtown Manhattan, wearing my nice shoes with my 2 screens, doing the commercial loans I was doing, billion-dollar deals. Not that I was making $1 billion, but the clients were. It's almost like I was just this ball of fear and anger and pain and hurt, but at least I looked good. At least I had the office. At least I was on these prestigious deals, prestige. And looking back, like that was never me. So I think in the process of unlearning this belief, like we have to give ourselves compassion because it's not our fault we've been growing up and been told that the route to take to success, especially if you become like immigrant parents or parents who have told you you have to work hard to get the life they didn't have or to get a better life. It's not our fault that we've grown up so disconnected from ourselves. Because a lot of the time, what we really are doing is just chasing someone else's dream. So in unlearning our relationship to money, it really is going to come with a lot of truth of who we really are, going back to our base state of 5 or 6 years old. Like, who were we before we even went to college? If we went to college, who were we before we started taking exams? Like, what were the things we cared about? What were the things we actually were interested in? Because that's who you are at your core. And we've just spent so much life running away from that. But it doesn't look like it because we have the car and we have the office and we have the 2 screens and we have the vacation. But beneath that is either a very sad or scared little boy or girl going back to being who you were as a kid. So I just want to mention that because I think this process of unlearning money can come with a lot of pain. Unlearning thinking money will give you happiness because it requires you to face all the things that you thought would give you happiness, and that comes with a lot of pain. So thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for the listener for writing in this question. We really appreciate it. It was fun to talk through. It was informative, and it was really helpful to just remember that, wow, I'm still going through this. I'm still unlearning my relationship to money. It's something I think that takes some time. It's something I think takes, as we grow and as we connect with ourselves more, it becomes clearer of what we value. And also, as we tap into this unlimited energy in the universe, we start to realize that, oh, I don't actually have to hustle so much to get the money I want. I don't have to try that hard. I have to just let go. So if you guys have a question, email us, info@livelifeumpotted, send us a voice note, DM us, reach out. We would love to feature your question here. And if you've made it to this far, we should have said this in the beginning, just rate, review our podcast. It really, really helps. Share it with a friend, post on your Instagram, get the word out. Use #LifeUnpotted on Instagram. What are you doing to live a life unpotted? Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week on Tuesday for another episode.